All right, new this morning, Albuquerque police are still on the scene of an overnight shooting. This is a live look from where it all happened. We're talking about a home on Rice Avenue near Indian School and Rio Grande in northwest Albuquerque. Police are searching for one person that may be involved. Now, what we do know is that police say one victim was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. One suspect was shot and is in critical condition. The investigation continues, and police ask anyone with information to give them a call. In other news this morning, we could learn more today about a deadly deputy-involved shooting. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office says a deputy decided to shoot when a suspect rammed his vehicle.
Deputies say the guy had already rammed one car before that and obviously was not done. Just after 6 last night, deputies got a call about a man fighting with two women at a gas station on Coors and Gun Club. He was apparently trying to force a woman into his truck. The women, we are told, got out. They got into their own car and they started driving away north on Coors. Then deputies say the man tried to run the women over, hitting their car. The deputy drove up to the area and says the man began ramming his patrol car, trapping the deputy inside. The man rammed the car again. That's when the sheriff says the deputy fired at least one shot at the man. Afterward, Sheriff Dan Houston was questioned about whether that man had a weapon.
Yeah, with the vehicle. I think it was clearly visible by the damage to the female's vehicle and the sheriff's deputy vehicle that he intended to do great bodily harm to all of them.
The man who was shot was rushed to UNMH where he died. The sheriff says two witnesses helped get the deputy out of his car that was all beat up. The sheriff's office has not yet released the name of the man who was killed or the deputy involved in the shooting. Liz.
Sad end to a story we've been following. The remains of a missing hiker in Santa Fe have been found. Search crews have been looking for 75-year-old Audrey Kaplan since Wednesday. Her and her husband parted ways while looking for mushrooms near the Santa Fe ski basin. She failed to return. Yesterday, searchers found Kaplan's poncho and the Trader Joe's bag she was carrying. They found her remains a short time later, a little over a mile away from where she was last seen. How she died will be determined by the Office of the Medical Investigator.
At 5:03 now, the facility in Artesia housing hundreds of immigrants who have entered the country illegally is getting a visit today from our elected leaders. That is supposed to include Congressman Steve Pierce. The Department of Homeland Security is processing more than 600 women and children at the center. After the tour today at 4 o'clock, Congressman Pierce will join the mayors of Artesia and Roswell and other leaders for a news conference at the Artesia Chamber of Commerce. Voters in Albuquerque may still get a say on if penalties for having pot in the Duke City should be reduced.
City councilors will vote next week on a proposal that would allow voters to weigh in on a plan to reduce pot penalties.
I think overwhelming evidence speaks to the fact that nationally and statewide, people are in favor of decriminalizing marijuana, especially an ounce or less.
Councilor Ray Garduno wants the issue to go to a vote in the general election. His proposal would mean someone caught with an ounce or less of pot would not face jail time. Instead, the offender would face a $25 fine of up to $50. But some city councilors think the proposal is just a political ploy.
It's a city ordinance with the intent to affect the statewide election, and I don't think that's right to mess with a city ordinance like that.
This all comes after the city made a mistake telling petitioners they needed about 11,000 signatures to get the issue on the ballot, when in fact they needed 14,000. Garduno says that is not fair. There's a new addition at the Albuquerque City Council chambers. Watch this, a wall that separates the audience and city councilors. In May, protesters angry at APD and the officers involved shootings took over a city council meeting. Recall that? Well, City Council President Ken Sanchez says that the wall actually has nothing to do with that. He says it's one of the many upgrades that's been in the works. Other improvements, better wheelchair accessibility, and a TV screen outside the chamber for those people who have to stand outside.
Well, a town here in New Mexico that has seen more than its fair share of flooding this year could get help from the federal government soon. Yesterday, the Sandoval County Commission unanimously approved an emergency declaration for Algodones. It allows that community to apply for federal disaster money. Algodones has been hit by severe storms twice in the last few weeks, and that led to a lot of flooded neighborhoods. Albuquerque city leaders are working toward making sure no more drivers head through the central underpass there under the railroad tracks when it floods. 4 cars flooded and stalled out there Friday night, forcing drivers to swim to safety. In the short term, the city says they'll be more proactive about closing the road when it rains. It's also now looking at putting advanced warnings such as gates, flashing lights, and high water signs near the underpass. The city says it's taken a while to fix the underpass because it's focused money on keeping neighborhoods from flooding.
It really is prioritizing the funding, and I believe we did a good job of that because we did protect residential and neighborhoods from the storm this weekend.
Now, in the long term, the city has applied for $15 million of federal funds to rebuild the underpass. That project would also raise the sidewalks to go over the railroad tracks. Well, the rain also damaged UNM's Centennial Library, and unfortunately, a lot of historic stuff in it. Water seeped under doors. It flowed down the main stairs and into elevator shafts. About 50 shelves of books and papers were damaged. Many of them are historic government documents that are unique to the state. They've been boxed up, frozen, and shipped to a company to try to salvage them. Fans and dehumidifiers are now in the library to try to dry out everything else. It is closed for now, but 3 other libraries at UNM are open. Elizabeth?
Reality check on federal inspectors at the waste isolation pilot plant near Carlsbad. 2 New Mexico senators, we're talking about Tom Udall and Martin Heinrich, say the federal agency charged with reviewing the safety of mines failed to conduct required inspections at WIPP. The troubled underground nuclear waste dump in southern New Mexico was to be inspected by the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Udall and Heinrich are saying that the organization put WIPP workers and the surrounding community at risk by not doing the inspections.